Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Greater Nashville Regional Council Advisory Committee for Aging and Disability. Glad y'all could attend. This is an important meeting, and I'm going to just flat turn the thing over to the staff. Kristen, are you up first?
I can go ahead. You should be able to see the agenda on screen. We're going to have an update, just a verbal update on the area plan, which we'll discuss later, the actual review process this year, and then changes to the bylaws and some general updates. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Sarah for the area plan.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm glad that you all were able to join us this morning. So I'm going to go over an overview of the area plan. Hopefully this is a bit familiar since we did a little bit of background last year, but just kind of wanted to give the basis for why we do the area plan and then go through some of the updates. So the AAADs were established through the Older Americans Act of 1973, part of the federal initiative for providing comprehensive services for older adults. The AAADs maximize private and public resources to ensure that essential services are available to minority, frail, rural, and lower income adults to help people remain in their homes as they age. As the AAAD, GNRC is responsible for developing the multi-year roadmap, or what we call the area plan, that outlines a comprehensive and coordinated system for the purpose of facilitating accessibility to and utilization of all supportive services and nutrition services provided within the planning and service areas. And so, as the advisory committee members, you're responsible for overseeing the development of the area plan and its adoption in the spring. So last year was our big 4-year update, and today we'll just be going through some of the yearly update. And we won't be doing the full review. We will save that for our in-person meeting. So some of the main program areas under the Older Americans Act are supportive services. And so between GNRC and our local partners, how we provide those services are through information and assistance, outreach, case management, homemaker or chore services, transportation, legal services, or support through adult day centers. Through working again with our local partners for nutrition services, we provide that through congregate meals and home delivered meals, which I think most of you are all familiar with. Under disease prevention, we work with our senior centers to provide evidence-based education and programming. For family caregiver support, we work to provide education, support, and respite for family and informal caregivers. And then finally, under ombudsman and elder abuse, we work to provide advocacy for older adults and prevention of elder abuse and neglect. So this slide shows a breakdown of funding, and this shows the amounts that GNRC received for fiscal year 2023 through the Older Americans Act based on programs. So we receive between 16 and 20% of the state funding for these program areas. So for supportive services, we received about a total of 1.7 million. Nutrition, 2.8 million, disease prevention, 100,000, family caregiver support, just over 800,000, and ombudsman and elder abuse is 89,000. And again, a lot of that does go, we pass through to our local partners. There is a state area plan that's required by the Older Americans Act and provides the framework for the state and its partners to provide comprehensive and coordinated system to address programs and service. So the state plan on aging provides policymakers, service providers, and the general population with appropriate data about trends and implications for the current population, as well as the impact of the increase in the aging population due to the aging baby boomer generation. So the area plan developed by GNRC, we try to work in concert with the state plan through our Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability to support its plans and goals. So in addition to Older Americans Act funds, we also receive funds from the state of Tennessee. And so on this screen, you'll see a snapshot of some of the state funding and the percentage that GNRC receives. So we do receive some state support for the Older Americans Act program. So it's, again, state funds for nutrition or caregiver and homemaker. Our state options programming, which provides in-home services such as meals, cleaning, and personal care. And then our public guardianship program, which provides conservatorship for older adults who can't make decisions for themselves. So as the region's area agency on aging and disability, GNRC is charged with assisting communities in targeting resources from all appropriate sources to meet the needs of older persons with the greatest economic or social need. We coordinate and offer services that help older adults remain in their home, if that's their preference, aided by services such as meals, homemaker assistance, or whatever else it might take to make independent living a viable option. So by making a range of supports available, AAADs make it possible for older individuals to choose services and living arrangements that suit them best. And so here's an overview of our area plan and some of our overall objectives. And so these were adopted last year and they will continue through this year and the next 2 years. So we have provide exceptional customer service to clients throughout the region. And so that goal relates specifically to our information and assistance services, which includes referrals and resources that are available and accessible throughout the region. Our services and programs offered by our contracted senior centers and providers. Our nutrition and service programs. Sorry, my slides are. We also want to maintain a high quality of services and programs, improve awareness of services and programs, ensure access to reliable service network, increase partnership, network advocacy and education of programs, and expand our capacity for providing and promoting services. So some of the ways we want to increase our partnership network, advocacy, and education of programs, that relates to working with our partners and provide older adults and adults with disabilities opportunities to fill social needs, alleviate social isolation. We also want to educate long-term care residents and citizens on services available through the Ombudsman program throughout the area plan. And we want to ensure the needs of older adults are considered when partners are planning for transportation in the region. We want to increase awareness of programs and services. And so basically the promotion of our helpline, so people know where to call, how they can get assistance for their needs or what's available in the community. We want to heighten the awareness of services and supports for older adult family caregivers who are caring for children, and increase public awareness for elder abuse. Expanding capacity for providing and promoting services. We want to continue to increase legal services provided to enhance overall service delivery. So currently we work with the Legal Aid Society to provide that legal assistance. Through partnerships in senior centers, we want to continue to offer evidence-based programming. And we want to ensure that consumers have access to a variety of services from a reliable network of in-home service providers. And then our SHIP or our Medicare counseling, we want to ensure that that is available and accessible through the GNRC region. And as far as ensuring access to a reliable service network, we want to work with partners to offer a variety of services available. Through this time, that's been a little more difficult, but we are continually finding new ways to work with new partners in this area. So we want to highlight some of the accomplishments of the last fiscal year. So as far as we expanded provision of in-home services. So in doing that, we really highlighted our self-direction program, which is where an individual, if they know somebody, either a friend or family member, to hire to be their caregiver, we increased that program significantly. I'm sure all of you are aware there's a labor shortage, so to find providers that had staffing available was difficult. So this was a way that we could continue to serve older adults. We also expanded our voucher program, which is another form of self-direction. We also worked with our nutrition partners, which currently are Mid-Cumberland Human Resource Agency and Metro Social Services, to increase the number of individuals receiving home delivered meals. So as a result of these efforts, we reduced our waiting list for in-home services by more than 50%, and that's resulted in approximately 200 additional individuals receiving services. So we're really proud of that effort, and we want to keep going strong on that. One of our other main accomplishments is we've maintained strong partnerships with our senior centers in the region. We really rely on our senior centers to promote some of the programs and utilize some of our funding. And so we were able to continue our grocery box program that was piloted in fiscal year 2022. And as of February 1st this year, our participating seniors centers have provided 883 boxes of groceries and household items to over 350 older adults in need. So we're really proud of the work that they have done. And we continue to support evidence-based health promotion programming at contracted senior centers. 20 classes have been offered at these centers since July of 2022, including exercise classes, chronic disease self-management, and fall prevention courses. And another main accomplishment is we expanded programming to provide more services and promote GNRC more broadly in the region. So GNRC received over $91,000 from a West End Home Foundation to help bridge the digital divide for Tennesseans aged 60 and older. And in partnership with Tech Goes Home Chattanooga, GNRC funded 12 digital literacy classes and 11 senior centers throughout the region. We'll be able to serve a total of 144 older adults. And another thing that we've added is the Alzheimer's Respite Pilot Program. This funding was authorized through the Colonel Thomas G. Bowden Memorial Act and targets individuals with Alzheimer's disease or dementia who are currently on the waiting list for in-home services. So we're really excited about those programs. So in looking forward to the next fiscal year, we tried to identify some key actions that would work toward our overarching objectives. And so those include increase capacity of GNRC's provider network by continuing to expand self-direction programming to other funding sources, and that would offer flexibility, again, more flexibility to individuals. We want to continue to onboard additional in-home service provider agencies through our open procurement process. And we want to continue to support and advocate for the needs of the currently contracted providers. So just to see how can we work better with them, be a better partner to them. Another objective identified was to maintain exceptional customer service for both clients and contracted providers. So we want to continue to increase internal efficiency we're going to be migrating to a new database platform. We want to expand our online knowledge base, providing individuals with easily accessible information. And we want to start surveying or continue to survey our contracted partners to gain valuable feedback on how we can better support them and advocate for their efforts. And then another thing we've identified is to increase visibility and awareness of GNRC programs and services throughout the region. So we want to continue to participate in community events across the region and promote our Medicare counseling program to better reach 300,000 Medicare and eligible individuals in our region. And so that leads us to our community engagement and how you all are instrumental in this process. So you help us with participation in the development and reviewing our 4-year plan and our updates. And so you are also tasked with advising on the implementation of services and programs related to the area plan. And so just as information, we're going to continue to do surveys, information on our social media, and work on expanding our partner network. So one of the ways we would like for you to share your voice is by participating in a survey, which we have a QR code and a link to our website. And we would really value your input on the survey. And we'll send it out in a link later also, but we would appreciate you taking the time to take that survey and then also possibly distributing the link to any partners you feel like would want to provide some valuable feedback. And next month, we're going to be doing an in-person meeting so that we can actually do a full review of the area plan update for your review and endorsement. So that meeting will be on March 20th. And we'll send more details. So, Kristen?
We'll confirm the 20th, and I'll be sending out a notice to confirm that date. That's just our tentative date at this time.
So I'm going to, any other questions before I move on? And again, we'll be meeting in person next month where we'll go more specifically over some of our accomplishments and goals, and then we'll ask specifically also for your feedback. But if there's any questions or anything right now, we can address that.
And the advisory committee will be provided with a full draft of the area plan prior to that March 20th meeting for your review. And then we'll be asking for feedback in that meeting.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Michael Skipper.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning. Kristen, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. Apologies for not having my camera on. My USB ports are not working on the computer, but glad to hear the audio is coming through loud and clear. Another item that we're going to have for you at your next meeting, tentatively scheduled for March 20th, is we're going to ask you to consider certain amendments to the Aging Advisory Committee bylaws. And I wanted to give you a brief overview of where we're headed this morning so that when we do send out the existing bylaws as well as our proposed text edits to those bylaws in advance of your March meeting, you have some familiarity with that. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, Kristen, which is essentially for any of those who are interested in the statutory or regulatory requirements for the committee to have bylaws, wanted to make those references. There's a section of code in the OAA or Older Americans Act regulations. And then those regulations are further explained or described in Chapter 5 of TCAD's Program and Policy Manual, which I think does a fairly good job of explaining what the requirements are in the federal regulations. But in short, the bylaws are required to establish the number of members that serve on the committee, the method of selection, the tenure of membership, and the rotation of terms. So those are the required elements, the minimum required elements per the regulations for what needs to be accounted for in the committee bylaws. The next slide here is just a simple overview of some of the things that we would like to do to refresh the bylaws. Number one is to ensure the committee composition meets federal requirements. If the bylaws are establishing the seats that would serve on the committee, those seats need to be in compliance with the expectations for representation as they're put out by the federal regulations. We'll also want to make sure that the bylaws provide a really good framework for ensuring that our appointments, so the execution of the appointments are continue to also be in compliance with the federal requirements for representation. So that's one thing we want to do, just make sure we're completely consistent with the regulations with respect to who ought to be serving on the committee in terms of who they represent geographically or topically across Middle Tennessee. Number two here, we also, and this is really something we've started with our other advisory committees. We want to make sure that there's good connective tissue between the regional council body and any of our advisory committees. And so we'll be recommending that we add to the membership roster of the committee representation from our regional council body. And we essentially have 4 different types of members who serve on our regional council body. That's a council body's 93 members strong. It's municipal mayors, county mayors. But that's one category, which would be mayors. We also have social equity representatives from each of the 13 counties, and we have business representatives from each of the 13 counties. So there's mayors, social equity reps, business reps, and then the 4th type of member on a regional council body are state legislators. And right now, Susan Lynn is the lone state representative on our committee. The Senate, state Senate seat is currently vacant. What we're going to propose is that we have at least one mayoral rep, one business rep, and one social equity rep. We'll need to review the requirements on voting membership. Federal regulations don't allow any member from GNRC's board of directors to be a voting member of the advisory committee. And so we'll be working internally on, does board of directors and the regulations pertain specifically to the body that we call the board of directors, which is different than our regional council body itself. But nonetheless, regardless of whether these are voting positions on the advisory committee or not, I do think it's important that we have council body members participating in the activities of the advisory committee so that y'all are really well represented at our monthly meetings in terms of the issues and concerns that you are studying together as a group. So that's the second one here. And then the third set of recommendations will be a general refresh of the language and the formatting of the bylaws to make it more consistent with where we're headed with other bylaws of GNRC boards and committees. We've been going through and refreshing each of these as we get to them. Aging Advisory Committee, no different. And so we'll make them look similar to our other bylaws, as well as ensure that we're being consistent in our approach to these following 4 items that would be contained within. So the method and timing of appointments, for example, the appointments to the Aging Advisory Committee, which are made by the county mayors, are just one of many appointments that county mayors are making to various boards and committees. And so we want that experience to be consistent for those county mayors and be timed, at the same time of the year, so that that we've got their focus on making appointments to our various boards and committees and can get all that done at once. We also want to update the bylaws, or at least provide an opportunity through the bylaws to establish procedures for filling vacancies that do arise in between those appointments, and not relying on a county mayor to have to make another appointment in order to ensure we've got all of our spots filled. So that'll be something that we're borrowing from our approach to other boards and committees. And then within your existing bylaws, I think there's a desire to update its approach to establishing quorum, which right now is pretty loose. We don't want to make it difficult for us to establish a quorum, but I think we would like to see a little bit more structure and accountability in terms of what a quorum is for the committee. And then also we want to expand a little bit on the way your current bylaws address the election in terms, roles, responsibilities of the officers of the group. So again, this is just a preview of things to come for your March meeting. Wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk about it out loud before we send out the text in advance of that upcoming meeting. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments or any other objectives or desires from the committee itself as we're entertaining amendments to the bylaws. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. And the next item on the agenda, just general updates from GNRC staff. I'll take the first couple of here and then turn it over to Sarah, Kristen, or others online. I think Rachel's with us, Candy's with us online, who may have some additional updates for you all. First one is just wanted to give you a sense of our upcoming meetings of the Regional Council. February 15th, which is just a couple of days away. This will be our monthly meeting of our Regional Council body, a presentation similar to what Sarah just provided to you all on the area plan will be made to city and county mayors and the social equity and business representatives that I talked about earlier. We will be asking them to pass a resolution, essentially acknowledging the update to the area plan and the work to come in advance of getting that to TCAD. And then also February 15th, hopefully this is of interest to you, but we're asking our board to take some action on recapitalizing one of our small business lending programs that we have. We've historically administered a loan program that is funded through Department of Commerce, EDA, Economic Development Administration funds. They essentially provide a grant that we match, that they allow us to lend out to small businesses, and we make revenue off of application fees and interest, obviously, that goes back into the loan program to make future loans as those loans are paid off. And so this is really important economic development tool, which certainly would have overlap with some of our goals and objectives with respect to the aging and disability services that are out there. Particularly, I'm really interested to see how some of our lending programs could be targeted at the provider network, which is really struggling to some extent right now from a profitability standpoint. But anyway, we'll have that on the agenda. We'll be asking the board to authorize us to apply for recapitalization. Essentially, what that means is to refresh the pot of money that we have for lending for the coming years. And then, as we normally do, we will provide updates to our members with respect to grant opportunities being made available to them from state and federal sources for economic and community development. So that's the February 15th Regional Council meeting. You're all invited to attend. We do have a Microsoft Teams option for those who are interested in listening in, but not making the trip to Nashville. If you're interested in attending in person, we meet at the State Library and Archives in the Bicentennial Mall area of Nashville. And that information about that meeting is already posted online at gnrc.org/calendar. Looking ahead to March, our monthly meeting of our regional mayors will be in the form of our Transportation Policy Board. We'll be doing a member orientation, just reminding everybody our role and responsibility in supporting transportation planning and programming across Middle Tennessee. We'll also have a set of amendments to our regional transportation plan and our transportation improvement program for their consideration. And then March 20th, as Kristen mentioned, a tentative date for your next Aging Advisory Committee meeting, where we plan to seek your endorsement of the area plan annual update, as well as the amendments to the bylaws. And then looking ahead to the April monthly meeting of our regional mayors, which would be back in the form of our regional council body, we plan to kick off an annual update to our comprehensive economic development strategy. So if you're interested in learning more about that, and I hope that you would be, because part of this needs to be, that we're ensuring that we're connecting the dots between the work that we're doing through the Aging Advisory Committee with the work that we're doing to support economic growth in general. And there's a lot of overlap there between, the things that we might be recommending to support an aging population and those things that we're recommending to support continued job growth and prosperity. So that's a look at upcoming meetings. And again, all this is going to be profiled for you at gnrc.org/calendar. And if you're interested in any one of these things in particular, you can just reach out to me or Kristen or Sarah, and we'll get you more involved. The other thing that I wanted to mention this morning, and you'll get to experience the space for yourself in March, but we have moved. You probably know we had 2 office locations. We have had 2 office locations for the last 5 or 6 years. We moved both of those office locations into a single consolidated office in Metro Center, just a couple of blocks away from the office that you were probably familiar with on Athens Way. This is a look at the building. We have all of our staff, 80 professionals, working under one roof right now, which has been very fantastic. They're on one side of the atrium of our building. On the other side of the atrium, we have a conference facility that will support board and committee meetings moving forward, including Aging Advisory Committee. So we're looking forward to hosting you at our new space in March, and I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the moves. With that, I'll turn it over to Sarah, Kristen, Rachel, anybody else online who wants to share any updates from GNRC's perspective.
I don't have any updates, Sarah.
I don't either. Most of mine were part of the area plan updates. But we're excited for the in-person meeting tentatively scheduled in March.
Don, I'll pass it back to you just to close us out here.
Sorry, could you say that again?
I said I'll pass it back to you just to close us out here.
Okay. Well, thank everybody, Sarah, Kristen, Michael. It was a good overview of what's going on. Look forward to the meeting in March. I hope everybody is available. Is that date negotiable? The 20th?
We can talk about it and make sure everybody will be available for the time that we choose.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, we'll close the meeting then for this time. We'll consider our meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Thank you all for being